Hey y'all, welcome to a new What's for Dinner. I'm going to be sharing 5 delicious meal ideas in this video, starting off with these white chicken enchiladas. These are the best that we have ever had. This is such an incredible recipe. You're going to need some cooked chicken. I've been getting a little spoiled lately with the rotisserie chicken, so I decided to just prep it on my own. I just took 2 chicken breasts and seasoned them with salt, pepper, onion and garlic powder, and some chili powder. And I baked that at 400 degrees for 30 minutes, let it rest for a bit, and then I just went in with 2 forks and shredded it up. Then I'm left with some perfectly cooked, juicy chicken. So I got that transferred on over to a mixing bowl. And to that, I'm going to add in a half a block of some room temperature cream cheese. I'm going to season everything with just a little bit of garlic powder. I'll also shred up an 8-ounce block of some pepper jack cheese. So I'm adding about a cup of that into the chicken mixture. So you definitely want to give that a really good stir. Make sure that cream cheese is coating all of the chicken. This is going to be your filling for the enchiladas. And the cream cheese, not only does that give it a good taste and creaminess, I also really like how it acts as kind of like a glue. It holds everything together really well, making it super quick to stuff the enchiladas. So I'm going to spray a 9x13 casserole dish with some Pam, and now I can start assembling the enchiladas. So I just have some regular size tortillas. These are the Tortilla Land ones that you do have to cook first, but obviously use any tortillas that you enjoy. Just place a good amount of that chicken mixture onto the middle of the tortilla, kind of spread it out, and just tightly roll it up. Super easy. And the recipe did say that this would make 8 enchiladas, which you could totally make happen. I just decided to make them a little bit more meaty, so I ended up with 7, which was the perfect amount for us and fit in my dish perfectly. But now we're going to start making the sauce that gets poured over it, which is what makes these enchiladas. So I melted down 3 tablespoons of butter. I added in 3 tablespoons of some all-purpose flour and a tablespoon of taco seasoning. I'm going to whisk that together really good, getting all of the lumps out. And I'm just going to let this cook on about a medium heat for a couple of minutes. Definitely want to cook out that raw flour. Then I'm going to add in 2 cups of chicken broth, give it a quick stir. And now I'm just adding in about a half a cup of that shredded pepper jack cheese. And then as soon as that cheese is melted, I'm going to add in the 2 final ingredients, which is a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies and a cup of sour cream. I do have my heat turned off at this point. I'm not trying to cook this sauce. I don't want my sour cream to curdle or anything. So I'm just stirring that long enough to melt the sour cream. So I'm going to pour that all over the top of the enchiladas. Give me a straw. This sauce is seriously so good. Lastly, I'm just going to take the remaining pepper jack cheese that I have and just sprinkle that all over the top. And if you don't like pepper jack cheese and you want to stick with a white cheese, I would recommend either a Monterey Jack or a white sharp cheddar. I didn't think that was quite enough cheese for the top for us, so I had just a little bit of some sharp cheddar in the fridge that needed used anyways. So I threw that on in there as well, and I'm going to pop that in the oven at 350 degrees. I baked it for 25 minutes, and then I flipped on the broiler to kind of brown the top of the cheese. And I also made some homemade Mexican rice to go with it. This is the same recipe I've been using for years. I can leave a link to it in my description box if you are interested. But here's my plate. These enchiladas are seriously so filling and satisfying. I have another white chicken enchilada recipe that I used to make years ago all the time. It was good also, but this one is definitely the best. I'm really glad that I came across it and decided to make it instead. I would very happily make this for a crowd. It would be so easy to double. It is most definitely a new family favorite, and I highly, highly recommend it to you guys. Out of everything in this video, I was the most excited about this, and it couldn't be any easier. This is a turkey chop sandwich, which you can get at fancy delis. I got inspired by a TikTok video, which I will of course link, but I did kind of do my own thing with it. So I just have a big piece of parchment paper laid out, and I'm just laying down some shredded lettuce. You can see me kind of picking through it. This had been in the fridge for a bit. There was a few little brown pieces, so I'm just kind of getting those out of there, but I'm not making a salad. I'm just trying to add enough lettuce to top 2 to 3 sandwiches. I'm also going to lay down a few slices of tomato. This is definitely one of the better ones that I have bought in the last few months. That is one thing I hate about wintertime. is the tomatoes. Like, they just do not taste near as good as a good homegrown garden summer tomato. Like, I'm so looking forward to that. This will be the first thing that I remake when those start coming in. I also added some dill pickles on top. I love that on my sandwiches. And I'm also going to lay down a few slices of provolone cheese. I picked up some good quality turkey at the Kroger Deli. This is the oven roasted. It's just a little bit under a pound. I didn't add the whole pack to it, but close enough. I did leave out some to make my daughter just a regular turkey and cheese sandwich because that's what she wanted. I got some Duke's mayo, and I'm going to add a couple of good spoonfuls of it, and I drizzled on some red wine vinegar. I've actually never done that before, but I know it's like a popular thing to do. At this point, I wanted to go in with my large knife and start getting this chopped and folded together because that vinegar was kind of running all over the place, and I wanted to kind of get it all mixed together before I start adding in a few of the seasonings. I did eventually learn that it's easier to do this off of the cutting board. I just didn't want to chop up my countertop, so now I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. I'm going to do a good amount of black pepper. And I'm also going to do some oregano. This is also something I don't believe I've ever done with a sandwich. I know people do it, and I really, really love the flavor that that gave. So that's everything that I'm going to be adding to this. So I'm just going to continue chopping it until it gets to the consistency that I am looking for. I love a good sandwich, and it's not something that I have very often because for lunch, I normally do like leftovers from dinner. I don't like to waste, so to me, there's just nothing better than a good sandwich. It reminds me of summertime, like imagine having a really eventful day out in the heat, coming back to something like this. Like, I just love that. This is the bread that I chose. I was going to go for some sub rolls, but I could not find any at Kroger for some reason. But these worked out just fine. So I'm just taking a serrated knife, getting those cut open, and I am just going to start stuffing it. I realize that something like this may look and sound a little disgusting to some of y'all. I get it, but I promise y'all, like, it just works out so good. It is delicious, and I just think it's a really different and unique idea. And just think of all the possibilities that you could do. Like, you could switch out the meats, switch out the toppings, like, there's so many different variations. I did top it with some extra black pepper, and I served it with some of these Red Robin steak fries. This is my first time buying these. I found them at Walmart. Really, really good, and this size bag was the perfect amount for my family of 4. So here's my plate. I just have a little side of ketchup to dip the fries in. And again, y'all, this was just a huge hit. Really easy dinner. And I think it's so important to find different things that you can make on those really busy days that you just don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen for. So this is definitely one of those. I have been wanting like a good, simple pasta dish. So I remember the Pioneer Woman's sour cream noodle bake. It's been a few years since I've made it, but I know we liked it a lot because it's on my favorite recipes board on Pinterest, which is how I remember the things that we really, really love. One thing I do love about this recipe is that it has very few ingredients and they are all really simple. Also, it's just such an easy thing to make. I feel like almost anyone can make it. Like, you do not have to be a good cook to make this. So I started by crumbling and browning 1 pound of ground beef. I seasoned mine with some garlic salt, onion powder, and black pepper. If you do have a lot of excess grease, definitely drain that off. But now I'm going to add in 1 just regular size can of tomato sauce. It's like 15 ounces. And I'm going to season the sauce with a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to get that all stirred together. And I'm just going to let this simmer on the stove on about a medium heat while I am getting everything else prepared. So to a mixing bowl, you're going to need some sour cream. You'll need about a half a cup. I just kind of eyeballed it. You'll also need a cup and a 1/4 cup of some cottage cheese. I have been on a big cottage cheese kick lately, which is new to me. So now that it's always in my fridge, that is what inspired me to make this. It just kind of reminded me. But you do want to season that mixture with some black pepper. I did some freeze-dried chives as well, but if you like green onions, use those instead. Stir it together good. You'll also need to cook up a half a bag of some egg noodles, so about 8 ounces. Cook it to al dente, drain it off, and then add it into this creamy mixture. Stir it really good. You definitely don't want to break up the noodles, like stirring it too hard, but I had no issues with that. I grabbed my casserole dish, sprayed it with some nonstick cooking spray, and I'm just going to layer this up, kind of like you would with a lasagna. So I added half of the noodles to the bottom, then I did half of the meat sauce. I did shred up an 8-ounce block of some sharp cheddar cheese, so I'm just adding some of that over the meat sauce, and then I'm going to cover that with the remainder of those noodles, the rest of that meat sauce. Make sure to really spread it out, making sure it touches like the corners, the edges, all of that. And then I'm just going to do a final layer of the shredded cheese. I'm going to pop this in the oven at 350 degrees. I baked mine for around 25 minutes. You'll know it's done when the cheese is melted. Of course, I'm going to give y'all a little look at the inside. Just so very simple and such a kid-friendly meal. We served it with some steamed veggies. This was just some frozen veggies that I steamed in the microwave and then tossed in some butter and garlic salt. So good that way. And I also did some garlic Texas toast. I really like the egg noodles in this. It definitely gives it a different taste than like a regular pasta bake. And I, of course, really like the sour cream, cottage cheese, chive mixture. Just makes it different. Like, this is nothing like a baked spaghetti. Don't even think of it as like that, but it's easy to stretch and it's super budget friendly. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love cooking soups. I love the idea of just throwing everything in a big pot. The flavors are always amazing and it's just so cozy. It's always been a great way to get my family to actually eat vegetables. So this is a cabbage sausage soup and it absolutely exceeded my expectations and it's healthy. So I started by getting my ingredients chopped that I would need for the soup. So my kielbasa, cabbage, carrots, and red potatoes. I heated up just a little bit of olive oil in my large pot, and then I threw in my thinly sliced sausage, cooked that for a few minutes to give it some color, let the flavor kind of sweat out before adding in my diced carrots, as well as some chopped celery. I usually always have a big bag of chopped celery in my freezer. It works perfect for recipes like this, and it saves a little bit of time. I seasoned all that with some onion powder, but if you like actual onion, replace it with a diced onion and just cook it with the vegetables for a few more minutes. I threw in a big spoonful of minced garlic, seasoned all that with some oregano and black pepper, and I'm just going to let that garlic cook for another minute or so before adding in the chicken broth. So you will need 6 cups of chicken broth. Kroger was out of the carton, so I had to use 3 cans. I also had about a half a cup left over in my fridge from a previous recipe. You don't need it. I just wanted to use it up. And so then I added in my chopped cabbage and my red potatoes. I also decided to throw in some of this Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. I knew that flavor would work really good in this dish. It definitely gives it a nice little kick. So I'm just kind of getting all of that stirred together. I did also decide to throw in some extra black pepper. We love black pepper, but I feel like cabbage and potatoes is just something that needs a lot of it. I do have this on about a medium-high heat, and I'm just waiting for this to come up to a boil. As soon as it does, I'm going to get my lid added on, and I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, and I let mine cook for about 30 minutes because we like our cabbage to be really tender. I was going to make some homemade cornbread to go along with this, and then I remembered that I made some homemade cornbread muffins not too long ago, and I froze the leftovers, so just pulled those out, thawed them out, heated them up, and slapped them with some butter, and it paired absolutely perfectly with this meal, and I just love this. I really, really love this soup. The leftovers were even better, and it's just one of those meals that makes you feel good about yourself. I felt really good after eating this. Lastly, I am making another TikTok inspired recipe. This is a London broil. I have never bought this cut of meat before. I have zero experience with it. The recipe did call for this Laurie's beef marinade seasoning mix. I have never seen this before. I couldn't find it in any stores around me, but I could find it online. You can find it on Amazon, but I couldn't find like a single pack of it. You had to buy like a big box of it. So I did find it on Walmart, so I ordered it from there. Took a while to come in. It was a bit of a hassle, honestly, but I just followed the directions on the back of the package, mixed it with water, and poured it over my meat. Obviously, I didn't mix it too good. There were some clumps I just had to kind of work out, and I'm just kind of flipping the meat around in that marinade, and I'm going to let it marinate in the refrigerator all day. So I am going to get this dish covered with some cling wrap. I did come in every couple hours or so to flip the meat. So yeah, going into the fridge, and then here we are at the end of the day. It is time to cook this up. So I'm just getting that transferred on over to my cookie sheet, and this is the stressful part for me, at least. So she put it under the broiler in the oven, and she said she did 5 minutes on one side and 3 minutes on the other. I could tell that my meat was bigger than hers and just a little bit thicker, so I did decide to add on a couple more minutes. So I did 5 minutes on one side and 5 minutes on the other. At this point, I took it out, tinted it with some tinfoil, and I let that rest for 10 minutes before I went in to slice it. So these first few pieces look great, like this is what you want, but the farther I got down into that meat, the rarer it got, and we just cannot eat it like that. Like, it was like cool to the touch. So I made the decision to pop it back into the oven for a few more minutes, which I know is not good, especially after you've let it rest, but I just had to do that. So here we are after that. I did cut it against the grain. So there is my London broil. I served it with a baked sweet potato with some butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon. That was so good. I haven't had that in a while. And also some fresh green beans. As for the meat, the flavor was great. We loved that beef marinade. Most definitely would buy that again. And it turned out good overall, but it could have been better. Like, some of the pieces were like super tender and so delicious, but some of the other pieces were kind of tough. How that happens, I don't know. It's just frustrating. So if anyone has any London broil like tips and tricks, I'd be open to hearing it, because I would really like to perfect this. It really is like a good cross between a steak and a roast, and it's more affordable, so I would like to make it work. But that's all I got for today's video. I hope at least a couple recipes stood out to you that you would like to try for yourself, make you something good. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have the best weekend, and I will see y'all in my next video.